Ciao, I'm Dan and welcome back to my channel for part 2 of the looping animation tutorial. This week we will be animating what last week we modeled. Let's get back into it. So what I want to do now is making sure that each medallion falls down, bounces a little bit and then goes inside. So we can start with one of them can be the first one, coin one. That's Instagram, so we can hide the others. Actually, if we hide the others, since that they are linked, we don't really hide them. So we create a new collection and we can call prov, and we move everything but the first inside here. And also, actually, instead of doing like this, we can hide the floor. We can go into X-ray, yeah, and with the B, we can select, with the box selection, we can select everything that we want to move in here, and then we press M and we move into Prov. So now everything is in Prov, even the elements that were inside of other elements. Then we deactivate the X-ray and we move this to the center. We need to start adding a camera, so new collection, O1, it's fine. And we add with Shift A and we add a camera GZZ to move, and then 0, and we enter in our camera. We can again move with the camera, so we can go into camera to view. So when we rotate around with our 3D view, basically we rotate also around the camera. I think that for now this is a good angle. Yes. Usually rename everything. Remember to deactivate camera to view, or every time that you try to orbit your scene, the camera will be linked. So we have our coin that needs to be outside the scene. So G Z, and we move it outside. And then we need to start animating. So we generate a new panel with the timeline. We start from frame 0, and basically our coin at frame 0, we just need to animate the coin at the moment. So we press I and we set a keyframe for location, and as you can see, setting the keyframe, you have like the location the location inspector that becomes yellow, telling you that in there is a keyframe, and if you move the timeline it becomes green again. Then we go further, an amount of frame that we want to pass to set the second keyframe, and to do so we need to check how long. We go 24 frames per second. I usually go 25, just because if you want to do 4 seconds, 25 frames are basically 100. You can do easier calculation. So this one can fall down for now in 1 second, maybe less. For now we do 1 second, then we move it just in case. The other thing that I would like to do is activating the floor, because this is important at the moment. So we have this one at frame 25, we press GZ, and this one goes down like this, should be fine. So I location, but then when it falls down, it bounces on the coin that's before, and it has a small jump. So we go back to 25, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can, and we move up a little bit. So GZ, and yeah, we can go a little bit like this. I location, but in here when it falls, basically it falls like this, and then it jumps, and then it needs to jump back down in like 4 frames. So I would do, I simply select the frame, Shift T, and I copy. So I'm copying the position. So at the moment it does like ding. And the other thing that I would like to do is making sure that it rotates a little bit when we are here. So we set a keyframe for rotation in here. So I rotation, then it needs to go up a little bit, and it needs to rotate around probably the Y axis and the X axis, like this probably. I rotation, and then it goes down back and I would probably keep the rotation for a little bit longer. So no, not really, we can reset the rotation for now. I rotation, so it goes down. Ding. Probably I would move it a little bit, a little bit further. Of course, if you don't remember to set the keyframe, it doesn't retain it. So GZ up, I location in this case. Okay, I think that's a little bit slow the way it falls, so I can simply select all these keyframes, pressing B, box selecting, and I can and I can move them back a little bit, a lot probably. So now it should fall a little bit better. Okay, now this is a very subtle work that you need to do, so it may take some time. The other thing that I would do is making it slightly jump on the other side, as if when it falls it hits one side and it jumps in the other. So to do so, I would go further 2 frames. So basically in here I rotate on the X minus 10, so 2 frames after I will rotate on the X a little bit, not too much, like 5. I rotation, and then when we are here we rotate on the Y of 7.6. so in here I would rotate on the other side, so I would do -3 probably, just to stay like this. It's fine. I rotation, and then I would probably go to next frame and I would reset again everything 0. I do I rotation again. So basically it falls, it jumps a little bit, and it goes down. It's a little bit slow again, so G, and I move. Yeah. And probably I would, even this one, I would make it a little bit faster, so as you can see, I am selecting everything the same way I select the objects in the 3D scene. So we have the animation of one of the elements. Now what we want to do is making sure that all the other elements are animated the same way. So to do so, I activate the other elements that are here, and I select all of them, and then I select last this one, and I press Ctrl L and I copy animation data. So now all of them retain the same keyframes and all the different elements are animated the same way. So what we have to do now is offsetting them, and to do so we need to link them to a null object that keeps bringing them down, and then we need to offset their position. So the best way I found to do this is we can basically move all of the elements but the camera and the floor in the same scene. So we can press M. Actually for now I keep them separated for one reason, because I want to create a null object in the center of the scene for the coin number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I can create another collection. I can call these controllers, and I add a null object, an empty plane axis, and I can link the first. I can actually duplicate this 5 times, so I can do 1 and then Shift D. These are the controllers of our coins. So the first coin is gonna be linked to the first controller. I selected wrong because I need to select these two. So as you can see, the active elements is the controller O1. So if I press Control P, I keep transformation. Now if I select this and I move, the coin moves together with this controller. I do the same for the second. So Control P, keep transformation. And the reason why I do this is because if I move the controller, G, Z, I can move it a little bit up and I can stack them. As you can see, I created like a stack. So G, Z doesn't really need to be perfect. This one is at 0.5. We can do 0.5, so 0.05. So each of them would be 0.05 more than the previous one. So the third coin is going to be connected to the third null object. Control P, keep transform. So now all the animation happened in this way, happen one after the other. Now what I want to do is making sure that they keep going down and falling. To do so, another thing, probably later I will have to create new elements for this because I need to loop them. Shift A and I create a sphere. I can make it a little bit smaller, it doesn't really matter. Then I press Ctrl A to apply the scale. Then I select all the empties and all the null objects and then the empty sphere. That needs to be the active element. So for some reason, okay. Then I can press Ctrl P and I set parent, keep transformation. So this one, if I move this one, all the others will move accordingly. So what I want to do is making sure that this one keeps going down. So I press in the first frame I location. Then I need to decide how long is going to be my animation. In this case, I think that it can be, let's see, if this one goes down, jump, and then down, it's 25. We have around 5. We can do 25. So the end frame can be 25 times 6. We can reduce later, just in case. So what we want is having these G, Z, and we want this to go down to have all of them disappearing. So we can enter the camera, we have this one selected G, Z, and we move them down. So they disappeared. So I, location. So we have this element that keeps going down, and what we want to do now is offsetting for each of our medals the position. So we select all the animations happen all together. As you can see, they go down and they go down all together. We want first the first one going down, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, and so on. As you can see, when I try to alter the animation of one object that I linked using Ctrl L, all the other objects follow, because when I alter the animation of one object, I am altering the animation of all the other objects. In order to prevent this, you just need to go into Object, Relations, and make single user for object animation. So now, if I have this object selected and I move this animation, it just moves for this object and not the others. Of course, you need to do this for each of them. So you can select all of them actually, and pressing Object, Relation, make single relations, and make single user and object animation. Now if you select one of them, it works independently for each of them. So as you remember, we were at frame 22 and we want a second object, and actually I want to move all the animations a little bit further, so all but this one, and I move them further. Then I want the object number 2, and I select the animation that of this object that comes here. So now I have the first one that falls, and then the second one, and then the third one, fourth one, and so on. The other thing that I notice is that they tend to go down faster and faster. We don't want that. So we need to change the speed of the element that goes down. So we want to make sure that when we reach um, the final part, the last element is still at the top. So we can set a keyframe and we can make sure that they remain like the same amount of visibility, and then we press I, set I location. So the other thing that I would like to do, I want to start with the elements moving, having some elements on the bottom. So what we can do is duplicating elements that we already have and simply offsetting them. So I can delete these keyframes. I have my controllers that are inside of down. I can simply select the number 5. I can go in my elements and I select the coin and what's inside of the coin, and I press Shift D to duplicate. Now this one should happen before the previous element. So one of the things is I want the number 5 to be not at 0 but at minus point minus 0.05, because it needs to be one step under. The other thing is and I don't really need to set a keyframe because I don't have keyframes set for these. The other thing that I want to do is for the duplicate, the animation needs to be offset. So G and I offset here. So when we start, we already have that in here. So we start with this one and we see the animation, and then we have these and these and these and these, and we can actually go a little bit further, and we can duplicate also the 4th together with what's inside of the 4th, and of course the coin. So we have everything selected, Shift D, then we take this one and we go at minus 0.1, so it's even more down. Then we cannot go before for our animation, so this can be a problem. We can select all the coins, to be honest, and we can offset them, or we know that probably we can actually select the coin itself and you can offset it. We can go back, yes. So we know that the coin, actually I don't need to move these, but I need to move this coin. So we know that the coin 5 stops 1 frame before 20. So we can take this one and we can go back again in here. So we know that more or less it's gonna be here. So this animation already happened. And probably, let's see, we can do it a couple more times. So we already have elements in here. Once you have spent time to synchronize everything, you will achieve a similar result. So I activate the lights and as you can see, is a loop. So you don't really understand where is the beginning or the end of your animation. So the first thing that you need to do now is starting to see how it appears when you render it. The best way is activating the viewport shading. At the moment you don't really have lights, but we can start setting up a background for our elements, because they are slightly reflective, so we want them to reflect a little bit the light. And to do so, we open the shader editor, we go into Word, but on the Word panel we can start setting up an environment texture. As you can see, the Word part of the shader editor changes accordingly. We can open an HDR image. I usually use this Venice sunset. Is one of the best images to lead your scene. The light is so realistic that really you don't really need to do anything more than adding the image. But we don't have shadows, we don't have anything that makes our scene pop. So the first thing, we add the ambient occlusion that allows us to have shadows in our scene, and the bloom that allows the object that reflect light to have a slight halo. We also want the screen space reflections, and as you can see now we are starting to reflect the environment on our object. And I would do also refraction, even if we don't have anything that refracts light at the moment. The other thing that we want to check is the shadows. I want the high bit shadows. When you want to work just on your animation, don't activate these elements because there is no point and they take a lot of resources. At the end of the video I had a little bit extra time and I created additional elements to make it even more interesting. You can work on your elements following also my other tutorials. So remember to subscribe to my channel. As usual, if you have any question, write me. I am always happy to hear from you, and a lot of tutorials came out from your questions. I'm waiting for you next week for another exciting tutorial. Ciao!